Good morning, my friends, and welcome to this week 3 of this 4-part series. You know, words have meaning, and today we're going to discuss the words social justice, which is part of an ideology that I've been speaking about. It's been spreading undetected in our society for some time. It's evolved over the past 100 years. It's now taught in universities, and it's silently changing our worldview of life around us. It has a name that few people recognize, called critical theory. Critical theory has many tentacles like social justice. So we must be on guard that ideology does not overshadow theology, because words have meanings. Social justice is not an empty catchphrase. Its definition seems vague to us at times, and while it may sound very noble, it has a specific, consistent meaning in large segments of academia and in substantial portions of our current culture. It shares some biblical concepts of justice, like caring for the poor, the marginalized, and the powerless. However, the real meaning is grounded in a worldview that is largely antithetical to Christianity. Christians should be extremely hesitant to use the term social justice. Social justice derives its current meaning from critical theory ideology, which has dominated academic disciplines now since the 1960s. Critical theory insists the fundamental duty of human beings is to seek the liberation of oppressed groups from the domination of oppressor groups. Now, if you do a Google search, it'll lead you to a definition that's going to seem a little odd to you until you accept that society is something that must be liberated. The Google search will tell you that it defines social justice in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within society. It'll go on to say that individuality gives way to the struggle for social justice. Yes, my friends, you're listening to socialism. You know, the definition, the word social justice appears not to be in opposition or oppressive to the biblical justice that we understand. Because our definition of biblical justice has to be individual. It has to be concerned with the individual. In other words, the who, rather than the concerns of the group. In other words, the what. Justice should be, first and foremost, a relational term. People living in a right relationship with God and one another and God's creation. You know, from a scriptural point of view, justice means loving our neighbors as ourselves, and it's rooted in the character and moral nature of God. Christians should recognize that social justice is reductive. Critical theory proponents view justice as a cause to liberate the oppressed. But from a biblical perspective, neither morality nor justice can be reduced to liberation from oppression. Many sinful actions do not involve oppression, like cursing God, worshiping idols, dishonoring one's parents, or having sex outside of marriage. Like those are all immoral acts, but they don't involve oppression. Similarly, biblical justice has to involve things that are not liberations from oppression, but also include things like impartiality and judgment and the punishment of wrongdoing. Today's culture defines oppression to include categories that I think most Christians will find uncomfortable. Let me ask you, are heterosexual Christians a form of oppression that needs to be eliminated? Are churches that advocate for the life of a black baby in the mother's womb oppressing women's rights, and therefore is a church that should be eliminated by the Black Lives Matter Women's Liberation Army? Are most Christian parents oppressing children by teaching them the Bible? Now, if you and I as Christians agree with social justice as defined by the terms in critical theory, which is the norm in today's universities, by the way, then we have to define the Bible and Christianity to be oppressive. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Jesus Christ is all for justice in a social construct. When it comes to caring for and standing up for the rights of the weak, poor, marginalized, and powerless among us. But sadly, the term social justice has been hijacked to mean an organized revolt against any power in society that they deem to be oppressive. If you believe that your gender, your theology, and God's morality is true, that life is sacred, that all life from God matters, then you're going to be labeled as an oppressor against free choice, homosexuality, Black Lives Matter, education, science, and religion. You're going to be a racist, sexist, misogynist, privileged person. You're going to be labeled as being against social justice. Now, I don't believe a society that labels a Christian this way is something that we should have. It should be a concern for all of us. So join me next week, would you, for the conclusion? How this plays out in society. How does it all end? God's not sleeping, my friends. See you next week. Bye for now.